feel like this wraps together all of the things that we've just been talking about, because that's really being in that embodiment for, okay, I am in this space. I am this wealthy, sovereign individual, and this is the story I am now feeling, believing, and living from. I am the story that I am creating. You know, that's the belief that gets to come out and live through you.
Welcome to the Raw and Wild Hearts, a place where the raw, the unfiltered, the wild hearts gather to celebrate triumphs and hardships, learn from each other, grow together, and break down a culture rooted in fear. We will talk, we will laugh, and we will lean on each other about everyday life experiences that we could all use a little support through, and then we'll bask in the wild, magical beings that we are. My philosophy is that by embracing the dark, we may just let in the light. I am your host, Lori Rising, healer, educator, writer, adventurer, retreat leader, birth defender, and animal enthusiast and activist, along with my wild heart sidekick Kitty, Jesus the Brave. We'd like to invite you to get excited about the Wild Heart Revolution. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Raw and Wild Hearts podcast. I am your host, Lori Rising, and welcome to the season 3 finale. With a boom. If you're listening to this on the day it drops, I should say the surprise day it drops. Hello, Uranus. Happy 4th and final Saturn-Uranus square in retrograde. Yeah. How's the energy out there? I just got a text from my homeboy that said, wow, the energy is crazy out there. And I'm like, yep, here's the Saturn-Uranus square. And for those that are moving through life unconsciously, it's not going to be so happy. This is going to be hella uncomfortable. But if you are tapping in, tuning in, doing the work, getting in alignment, this is right on time. Y'all, I have such a special guest today, one of our faves, the astrologer and embodiment guide, Kelsey Isis. Oh, this conversation is off the spiritual hook. I edited it yesterday and loved every second of it. So I do hope that you find so much support, warmth, guidance, and love frequency emanating from us. Like we were moving worlds with where we went. And it's our first podcast, Hello Uranus, again with a live studio audience member. We just had so much fun. So with all of the intensity of what's coming in this transit today, and especially as we move into the Mars retrograde that is oncoming, I trust that you are going to feel the elevation and joy and true belief that Kelsey and I share of where we are absolutely going. Those of you that are out here doing the hard-ass human journey, trauma transformation, belief system excavation, soul, spirit, alignment, ascension work. Yeah, it's big. It's big, and I honor you hardcore. So if you are new here, welcome. We are so stoked that you found us. This is a perfect way to dive in. Even if you're listening to this podcast later, it is timeless. Every single astrological event and transit that we go through now continues to build on the last. And you can go back, especially if you're doing a journal practice, which I highly recommend, and look at the transformation that the planetary energies and astrological weather supported you in. Because sometimes when we're in it and we can't see the bigger picture. It's hard to get a higher vantage point at that time. That's why it's so wonderful to do reflective work. So I would love your star rating and review if you are digging the vibe that Kelsey and I are putting out and all of this work that I'm continuing to offer for the elevation of ourselves and our personal transformation and the elevation of this collective consciousness. If you're a longtime listener, heyo, I see you, I feel you, and I am so grateful that you continue to build this sacred container. We are the ones that are creating the ripple. Yes. And definitely make sure to hit that subscribe button on whatever platform that you love so that you are notified the moment that season 4 drops. I have another fantastic guest coming on and so much more to talk about. Like, we are in full on acceleration, and the most easeful way to move through is with each other and the frequency that we create together. If you are vibing with my medicine and you'd like to know more about my offerings and programs, go ahead and head over to my website, therawandwildhearts.com. Come hang out with me on YouTube, where I drop new and full moon intuitive messages and oracle guidance, along with holistic health tips that up your cellular clarity and physical experience as the light being that you are. And definitely come hang with me and Kelsey on our IG pages, because we are upping our IG lives for certain astrological transits. And I believe we're going to definitely come on for the Mars retrograde that is coming up. I also have a membership community and in-person retreats. If you are ready to go quantum, these are for you. And honestly, if you're feeling a little bit stuck, not sure where to go, but know that something's tapping on your soul, my psychic and intuitive readings are definitely for you. It's a great starting off point. I also have a digital course, my signature program, that is coming up live this month. Jump in at the launch price that is still available. You will be transformed. Okay, y'all, it is time. I feel like we need a thunder roll here. If you want to know more about Kelsey, check out the show notes below, get on her website, get on her social media, and definitely stay till the end of the episode to find out more about how you can connect. This episode is so juicy. I can't wait for you to jump in. So let's go. Please welcome Kelsey Isis. Hello, Kelsey. Thank you for joining the Wild Heart Revolution.
Woo! Thank you for having me, Miss Lori. I absolutely love when we get together and chat. This is my favorite, and I am so lit up for this conversation. Whew, I love being here. Thank you.
How do I even begin here? First of all, this is my first in-person interview in at least over a year. It might be 2 years. I can't even remember because I'm not in time anymore, right?
Yeah, no,
like
time doesn't exist.
So just being in this energy, in this like jovial space with you, in this beautiful connection, and like looking into your eyeballs and your skin and your physicality, your like beautiful human body. This is incredible. And we have just been going off for hours now before we even started this.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it's perfect for the retrograde energy,
it is,
right?
It really is. It's perfect for everything we're about to drop in and talk about, and just coming together as community and as friends to really like share our gifts and share our wisdom and honor what we're here to do on this planet and this ascension journey, and really just like sharing our fields together, you know, like this energetic field that we're always in. So we just get this resonance with each other. So I love having you here. Thank you for having me on. I love that I get to be the first in a while. So we just get to share in this space. And when we get together, it's always so lit up. So
yes, queen. Thank you so much for mentioning that. Like what we chose to come into in this mission, right? In this body, in this iteration, in this journey. Because even if it's not conscious, it's coming up. Like I keep getting the vision of so much bubbling up to the surface that has been repressed and suppressed by the programming and conditioning that we never even chose.
Exactly.
So how exciting is it that, you know, our innate knowledge, the wisdom that came in with us, no matter what our human age is actually coming back online.
Yes, it's so magical and it's potent. And I know that you have felt the shift, you know, like just recently even, to where it's fully activated and online. And I'm feeling it as well. I know that spiritual undertow has just like come through. And it makes me think a lot of like our north and south node right now. That south node in Scorpio, I feel like has really stirred it up, you know, and really brought in these deeper wisdoms that have been living under the surface for so long, with a mix of all the other things going on right now. And that's really brought what that ancient wisdom is to the surface, to where it's like, okay, this is just truth. Because we've gotten so far away from truth. And that has always been here, but it's not been widely looked at and received. And we're in this part to where like there is no getting around it anymore. We just are feeling what is true and what isn't true in our bodies 100%.
Oh, yeah. We have been jiving, like we have been vibrating in that frequency for a couple hours now. But what is wild is that right now, I haven't said my opening prayer or toast. I'm like, what did I even used to say? It's been so long. This is serious retrograde energy where I'm revisiting, reimagining, reworking what I've done before. But I definitely want to bring back that toast or prayer. So to the Wild Heart Warriors, in our light, especially our dark, and in all of our magic and glory, may we continue to elevate consciousness through honesty, humor, humility, gentle care, and soul-wrenching growth. And to us, I mean, I'm just going to say it, like being here in the energy together, it feels so unbelievably known, warm, good. And I also want to give a shout out to our live audience member, Thomas. This is the first. It's the first. So it's like reworking something and renewing it in new ways, rebirthing it. This is the first time that we've had a live audience member.
I love it.
Yeah, so I'm super into it. Kelsey, so much to get into. And you already started touching on it just a little bit. But what I want to really start with right now is what we're approaching, which is the fourth Saturn-Uranus square. It's like the fourth and final Saturn-Uranus square, which is the energy that we've been really moving through in 2021 because we visited this transit 3 times.
Yes.
But this time, there's a different flair to it. Do you agree?
I absolutely agree.
They're both in retrograde.
Yep.
Right? We've just been moving through a deep personal evolution in a new way. Right? Because I know you and I, we remember the big retrogrades that have been pivotal in our evolution. And I'm gonna give a shout out to the Venus and Capricorn retrograde of January 2022.
Can we please?
It was so big, it needs its own shout out.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. 100%. That was a big piece in changing our structure around our heart space and what's going on. And that's been felt, I feel like, this entire year. Like that set the tone for all these other transits that we're going in, you know, and that's the thing about astrology at this point. I don't feel like we can look at one transit anymore. It's how they all piggyback and build on each other. And these bigger energies are unlike anything we've experienced in this human lifetime of our awareness, you know, like hundreds of years. And all these evolutions and transits are coming back around to really sink in. And so January was a kickoff point, and it kind of started in December. You know, we had this Saturn Uranus squaring energy already laying a foundation. But as you said, when the year turned over, it really shifted our energetics and had this new sense of heart space coming in so that we could live in alignment from our emotional field and not just from our headspace anymore. And so now as we get into these deeper retrograde spaces, it's really this reflection on how does this integrate? How does this work into my body? And that's a big part of now then this leading into what we're going to talk about, the Saturn and Uranus. Now in this evolution, how much of that is going to take our embodiment for the next journey?
Yes. And you and I are both embodiment guides, which is super important in any ascension that we do at this point, because if we don't actually integrate what we're bringing or tapping into in the cosmos, in the higher dimensions, in the higher consciousness realm, then we actually don't affect the physical world. Then it continues to stay in the chaos and the systems and the matrix as we know it.
Yes.
But this is about the new earth rebirth. And if we're not actually, doing the full transformative process into our physical world, then it is going to be continuing in the chaos.
Absolutely.
Right? We have to rebuild the systems, not from the systems, but from our new ways of being, our new light body activations, the crystalline energy that's now in our cells.
Absolutely. And really grounding that into making it real. Like, all the activations are obviously beautiful and they're necessary for what we're doing. We have all this encoding within us. As you mentioned, this ancient wisdom is waking up, and it's about embodying it here now in the present, rather than keep reaching for activation after activation, which is big in the transits that are showing up right now. And this, do you have an addiction to healing? And unfortunately, a lot of people do, and they get stuck in that higher realm. And no shade if that's where someone is right now, though it's realizing that, taking this retrograde season right now, 6 planets in retrograde with Chiron as well, that's unheard of. It's really rare. And so being in that space of, I have this reflection, I'm taking accountability, I'm taking responsibility, and has to do a lot with this Saturn and Uranus square that's happening right now. It's really, where are we taking that accountability with that Saturn energy for what we're doing, and then integrating it. Great. Now I want to see where this changes. How can I change my life with what I want? Yes, all of these activations are amazing. Obviously, I need them. Though then that's implementing them so that we can reach people, that we can spread the light consistently, and that it grounds in so people can actually hear us. And that's a big thing that you and I, work on as embodiment coaches, is grounding that in so people actually get the information. Because if you're just constantly, oh, this is the download I had, okay, cool, but what are you going to do with that download? What happens now? How are you affecting your life? Or how are you reaching people? Are you putting that into your business? Are you putting that into your relationship, your home, your kids? What is that? Or are you constantly just oh, I need to meditate again, and oh, I need to astral travel, and all that? Yes, do that, but then what?
Right. Because when you create that space of integration, then it becomes a belief system.
Mm-hmm.
We run on belief systems.
100%.
We are fully absorptive beings. That is our ultimate superpower, is that we are energy, just like everything around us, and we absorb, right? And so then that becomes our mind thought. And that's where I feel like we've had a little disconnect, because we think that we're our mind thought. We think that's the first piece.
Right.
The first piece is the absorption of the energy, of the narrative, of the conditioning, the belief system of our parents, of generations before us, of the culture around us. And so it's not only moving into states of multidimensionality or ascension, it's actually excavating the belief system that had stopped us from going there in the first place.
Let's just marinate on that for a second.
You and I love to marinate.
Yes. That's part of the embodiment too. Sometimes you just have to slow down, hear it, really be in that.
That's part of the retrograde.
Absolutely.
Right. This is so divinely, I've been sitting with this recently, how divinely planned this, where we're at with the retrograde period, into the equinox, into the Libra new moon yesterday, into the Saturn squaring Uranus in retrogrades, absolutely. Right?
Yep.
And it's
all before Mars goes retrograde.
Oh, yeah.
The energy speaks.
Mars. The retrograde has given us the pause that we almost can't even take anymore, because life has speeded up so much. The earth is literally going faster. What is it like? Is it 1 or 4 seconds faster a year?
Isn't it 1?
So it's probably 1, but my speed wants to go 4.
Sure.
But still, that's unbelievable.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
When you tap into that with your cellular knowledge, that's really incredible. We were just talking about how many solar flares are coming and how much bigger they're coming, and they're just one after the other, and how much we're feeling it, because as our cells become more light than density, which is what I believe this huge energy that we're in right now, I believe that's where we're at. And that's where, you know, as that happens, we feel everything. We feel the weather around us. We feel the planets. We feel nature. We feel the hurts, the pains. Like we feel everything on such a visceral level because our cells are just open for it, right?
Absolutely.
Before, it's almost like we could put blinders on because our cells were so dense that we just got so used to living in pain and limitation and like struggle that we normalized it.
And all the Neptune transits that we've had this year, I feel like have really taken off the numbing. It's really like pulled off the Novocaine essentially. And now we can feel everything.
Oh, thanks for highlighting that.
You're welcome.
Yeah. And so this, you know, let's talk a little bit about Saturn and Uranus. Okay. What I think is interesting is Saturn was the traditional ruler of Aquarius. And Uranus is the modern ruler of Aquarius. We're moving into the age of Aquarius. I think this is going into what you're saying, like how all the transits are divinely placed to build on each other.
Absolutely. And that's the thing, like I keep giving a hands up to divinity that like it clearly has a plan. We just need to trust it and continually take action towards that. But if you just listen, just ask, all of it is right there. And you don't have to be proficient in astrology to see it, though obviously it's something that we use to really help us understand. And for me, it's part of like a language. Like if I were speaking Spanish, I speak astrology at this point because of how much influence it has to understand what's going on. And that energy of just Saturn being in Aquarius, like, and now for it to be in this retrograde period to where we get to go internally and understand what this transit so far has done for us. What has it brought to the table? And for that now to be, again, in the square to Uranus, and that also to be retrograde and grounding in, it's in Taurus. It wants to be, you know, more sure-footed. And yet we've got all this shifting energy of where, you know, Saturn also wants to be sure-footed and have time, but Uranus and like is a wild card in comparison. And so we're trying to root into this community aspect. We're going back to the roots that we had, and it's who is right there in front of us right now. And how does that get to support us on our journey? And I think a lot of people kind of are confused by that with the retrogrades that are happening and things in that matter, just because it's not necessarily like the idealistic of what people have thought it needed to look like, or what ascension looked like, or just what the world looked like, right? We've been thrown into the world changing so much over the past 2 years that there is no normalcy to it anymore. And that's where we can find that peace within this transit of letting what is going to shift and what wants to shift, and letting time fall apart, letting these rules fall away because they are kind of BS, which you had said earlier, and I really liked it. And it's a storyline. It's a belief system, just as you talked about. And it's really reorganizing that belief system with the knowledge and the truth that just gets to be there, and doing it in a new revolutionary way, shifting it up. Like all this Aquarian energy that you just mentioned is here so we can really, a lot of people don't see Aquarius as a sign of community, of people, but it totally is. It's social. It wants to look at things and interact, but just in a way that's also kind of inquisitive and fun and playful. Let that air move us around and really like shake up the foundations that Saturn, you know, has kind of been a little stuck in. We don't need to be stuck anymore. Yet we want to still ground. So let Uranus in Taurus, which is again this polarity, so much polarity is showing up in this transit. Like between the whole, like I literally see as it kind of 4 energies, right? Between the 2 planets and the 2 signs, and how they mirror each other, but also shake things up because they're so opposite. And it's finding the peace in that within ourselves, our polarities to find the neutrality, bringing this balance to find our harmony between these energies, and grounding into that so that it just feels like it's being held. Because yes, it's chaotic, but we get to be held in that chaos.
I love that you just brought that up because it's a huge belief system that I actually like to talk about a lot, because we don't even like let ourselves feel into that we've been sold this narrative that we're finite, right? So you said, let yourself break free, let the rules go. And that's part of like how we are infinite.
Absolutely.
Right? When your cells actually speak to you and show you your infinity, right? When you truly have the belief deep inside that you came from somewhere, which is source energy and light, and you will continue on in source energy and light, this whole like situation as a human, this condition as a human transforms in the most beautiful of ways. Like there's a transcendence above it, even when you're in it. And so then actually going through it is so much more easeful, right?
Absolutely. Yes. Yes.
But when you believe that you're just finite in this space, then that puts up walls and it creates resistance.
Yeah.
And that's completely counter to what we came here to be, which is expansive and evolutionary and adaptable and fluid and flowing.
Those are also delicious.
Sexy
yes.
words.
Yes. Oh, I love it. Yeah. And Uranus is like the planet of awakening. Like it's coming to liberate our souls. And so if we're letting that square off to Saturn to liberate us from all these concepts that no longer serve us, and as you touched on earlier, we didn't say yes to any of these things. So why do we continually just say yes? Like the program doesn't have to keep running if we're like, nah, that doesn't work for me, And so there gets to be these highlights within ourselves, within this ancient knowledge, within the stars, within the planets, of actually just being like, okay, do you agree with this? Where's your yes? Where's your no? And that gets to be highlighted by, and that's really like, I feel like a core value and in moral of the story, essentially, in all of the transits that we talk about. Like it's really putting the magnifying glass on what's coming through in the world and where we want our soul's evolution to be in this journey. How do I want to show up for me and my loved ones and my community? How do I want to rewrite these traumas and stories and, DNA? Like that's literally what we're doing. We're rewriting our DNA constantly every day. And the sun and all the solar flares are here to be like, hey, I'll help. You want some sun codes? Like it's intense. And all these planets keep getting right next to the sun and it just keeps blasting off, especially with, again, all these equinox energies. We're about to get into solstice or to eclipse energy. And I mean, that's just, Scorpio eclipse. It's okay. We didn't even say we were going to talk about that, but like
it's coming.
Yeah.
But that's where I feel like this is so divine where we're at right now. Like we're getting such deep grounding in what I'm finding. The message that kept coming through for me in this time period is a strength in the integrated unfolding. And what I mean by that, it's like the unfolding of when you can see the human condition and know that that's not you, it's a part of your experience, and actually allow that to like flow through before taking any action, right? So this brings us to aligned action. So if you allow that like human conditioning of unfolding, like the desires, the ego, the defense, the drama, let that, we get to like pause and rest and like, just let it float by. And then we get to this beautiful space of source energy that our cells are now magnetizing to. And that's where the aligned action comes in. So I wanted to say this about Saturn and Uranus as you were talking about it. It's like, if you look at Saturn and Uranus, it's liberation of the structure, liberation of time.
100%.
Right?
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, when you just like make it that simple.
So simple. Yep.
And how beautiful that is and expansive it is.
It is. And I know that for a lot of people, it also, there's fear that comes up there just because it's of the unknown. And it's okay to be nervous, essentially, of what lies on the other side, but also like using that momentum to also feed excitement at the same time. And really going into this with that wide-eyed, like, oh man, I don't know what's coming, but I get to write this story. I get to be free of this. And this is the first opportunity that we've had in our lifetime, obviously, of really grounding into that and being fully supported by all the cosmic energy that's going on. Like divinity is right here rooting for us. And it looks wild because so many things have to essentially crumble and go away in order for us to make this space. And there just gets to be so much grace in that as well. Like I invite, and I keep inviting, that's been a big theme of my life lately, inviting grace into these structures, into ourselves, into our evolution, because it's so different. We're learning every single day within ourselves, especially during retrograde season. You know, like how much reflection comes from this time. And a lot of us have a lot of alone time. And it's now, again, in these transits that are coming up, all this Aquarian energy, to really reach out for the things that are beautiful and the people that are there to support you, whether they're, you know, on the couch next to you or if they're a phone call away, you know, like that kind of thing. We have this energetic to connect and really be able to hold a mirror to our reflections and be in that space of sharing, so that we also hold ourselves accountable in this rewrite of the story. And that gets to remove some of that fear that's going on, like, oh, I have to do this all alone, or, oh, this is so intense. But there's these waves, and we didn't touch on this earlier, but like, I'm sure you felt it as well, that the waves of energetics is literally like every other day where there's high peaks of all of this energy coming in. And then there's almost like the morning that comes the next day of, wow, the life I thought I, you know, knew, or who I thought I was, is I let go of that. And, you know, like we go through these transitions because we are feelers, you know, like we live of the senses, and that's our embodiment, is to really be in that evolution. And it's wild to ride that wave, but also so beautiful. It's like a dance, you know, and we're in that. And that's what all of these planets are also bringing in, and they're dancing around each other and linking up. And so finding all these places where things are squaring and conjuncting, and it's really just how do they work together? It gets to be a divine reflection of our human lifestyle with each other as well.
Right. And I mean, like you said, these transits come in when we're ready.
Mm-hmm.
Our evolution comes in when we're ready. But also, we have free will as humans, and your life will not change without your full participation in it.
Ooh, yes. Your life will not change without your full participation in it. Cheers to that.
Well, right. And, you know, when we had been living a life of sacrifice, that belief system of sacrifice for so long, then we were incapacitated from participating, because if we believe we're finite, like we are who we are, right? And there's no possibility for change, or if we're fearing the unknown, which is where all the possibilities lie, if we're holding ourselves in the prison of our past, right? Then that's never going to actuate the expansive beings that we came here to be. But the exciting thing is, you know, that being said, the exciting thing is it's happening.
Yes.
And every transit takes us further, where we don't get bum rushed so hard at the shadow because we've done the work.
Yes.
And I feel like that was 2020 and 2021.
100%.
Right? Where we excavated.
Ooh,
And
did we?
we went deep.
We did.
Right? And even January of 2022 in that Venus retrograde in
Absolutely.
Capricorn, I feel like that was the last, like, really, like, in those times, I almost would feel like I've lost all of my ascension, right? Because I would just get that those traumas would resurface, those wounds, that karma would resurface. And because we're feeling so much more now, because we're so much more like sensual, I want to say, even like more sensitive. And when we feel more, when we have a light body activation, we are just, it's like available. And that's how we move through it. If you try to stuff it down now, if you try to bypass it and just keep like pushing and grinding, ooh, the discomfort. And that's the gift, right? The gift is coming through. Like, these transits are so much more powerful that they're going to create so much more discomfort when you stay in those lower vibrations in that limitation loop.
Absolutely. I love that you brought that up, because that's really a big space for, again, identifying what's true and what's not true, and really just simplifying it, because this journey can be a lot, obviously. And, you know, where do I start, or where do I go, and all of that. Yet it gets to be that simple as just, it feels good or it doesn't. And again, on this, right, like the embodiment side of what we're doing, which is huge for humanity and obviously for us, is how does my body feel? And so much of this density, because if you're pushing it, it's creating density. It's depressing it into your body. So that obviously can show up as actual depression within your emotions, but it also can be that headache that won't go away, that hip pain that is just nagging at you. So like listening in to where that's showing up in your body is a huge indication of, am I moving through this, or am I attempting to believe that there's still this density? And that's, as we shift into this light, it doesn't have space, and the light takes up more and more space than that story that created the density somewhere in your shoulder. So it's about really releasing that and like letting it move through you, which again, yes, it's intense, but that, as you said, is the gift, because it gets to also move that much quicker. It's not that you're in this emotional response for the next 4 days, which maybe 3 years ago that was a thing, but now it's just not available in our bodies anymore. And that absolutely is a gift. I am grateful for that all the time. I'm like, oh wow, I really held my strength, and yeah, that sucked, but it's gone now. I already moved through it. Like we're having multiple rewrites and lifetimes in a day, because time doesn't exist like that anymore. I get to be 6 different versions of myself this afternoon. Like that's okay. And then tomorrow I've rebirthed and I'm a whole new being, and wow, I changed my entire life. And that's the quantum rewrite. That's embodying what's going on and really using it for our benefit, instead of like, oh wow, I just can't do this, it's too intense, and again, like you said, pressing it down. It just doesn't have room. And I am grateful for that every day.
Well, and that's being in a state of flow.
Absolutely.
When we're in flow, we have the capacity and the fluidity to be available for what's coming in. And when we're in the now moment, then we are available in our full sensory system to hear the messages and guidance that, like, the veil, I feel like it's pretty much not existent.
Yeah, I agree. Everybody's like, oh, it's thinning. I'm like, oh, it's not even there.
I know we've talked about this for a second, but again, I feel like this 4th square was placed for us personally. Like, I feel like the first 3 had something to do with the collective as well. Like, I feel like it was kind of a dance between us and the collective.
Yes.
And this being on the end of such a huge retrograde period, with all of these planets, like Mars and Venus are the only 2 that aren't in retrograde right now. Right. This is all about our personal evolution. It feels like I don't want to say a finalization, but like a solidification of how we intentionally respond now. That's becoming more of our habit than the unconscious habitual reaction that had come in through the programming and conditioning and, the absorption before we were even verbal.
Right.
Right. And so this feels important in that way. Like, you're solidifying the release of the time construct that has been placed around you in the unfolding of your divine time, of when you're ready to move into new spaces of abundance, of wealth, of soul growth, of spirit, whatever it is, of embodiment, of getting the downloads and messages as well. It just feels like this is the final liberation of the programmed rules and the programmed time construct for us personally. How does that feel for you?
Yeah, I also agree, but I want to also just highlight a bit that you said in there was we're shifting from reaction to response. And that resonates deeply in my entire body, because we're not just coming from this space of, this is happening to me, it's happening around me, this is just where I was born, this is whatever, and reacting from that. We're actually taking a moment to respond, to understand how it feels. And this is absolutely personal at this point. I have felt like 2022 has been the year of identity in so many of the transits. But as you said, retrograde season right now with all these planets, it's the outer planets. It's like the container around what's happening. The fact that Mars is slow right now, obviously, as it's getting ready to go retrograde, and Venus is about to go into the underworld, essentially, in her dark phase as she's switching. but she's the only one that's still doing her thing. And so the fact that it's almost like taken our focus and our peripheral vision of all the things outside of us, and slowly through these transits, all these retrogrades, taken us inward more and more and more. And so the fact that Mars still has some gumption essentially is like that last outer, and it's really reflecting all the way deeply into our heart space, into really taking the responses from there instead of from our minds and all these stories, again, that we've been led to believe or already just said yes to, even though we weren't conscious of it. Our hearts are conscious 100%. So we're really like, nothing else matters in that focus right now. And we're going into this internal reflection. And that's where this Saturn Uranus square is really like, okay, how does that feel? What are you saying yes to? Again, what are you solidifying? I love that you chose that word. I feel like it really works for this, because this is definitely not a time for us to just be like, oh, I'll do that later, and I'll work on that then. Like, procrastination does not really hold space for us right now. If you're not ready, that's one thing. That's not the same. Though most of us on this level of what's coming up and keeps showing up in divinity right now, you're ready. And so sometimes some people are ready to take the leap and they're like, oh yeah, I'm doing it. And they don't need that extra push. The people that do need that extra push, this transit is here for the push, and like, hey, I've got you. We're reworking this. Let's liberate it. You are going to be the happiest you've ever been if you just let go.
I've been in a couple of little retrograde resistance states recently, and I'm so appreciative that they were quick, because it was hella uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as I broke through that resistance and went right to, which we're going to get to, the Taurus and North Node, and went into my simplicity, changed the projection of my day, completely shifted, pivoted, and got into like the beauty around me, the life force that I am, connected with the life force around me, got into nature, got simple, got quiet, gave myself space. It was just the most gorgeous transformation. Messages, downloads, like higher spiritual learning. Like, it was like, it's miraculous at this point. And making that choice, I feel like in the past was so overwhelming for us, because we had been living in such a life of sacrifice.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. And
now it's like rewriting that reaction. And when you do that, you are rewarded immediately in this space that we're in, without the veil, with the connection with the star life and the cosmos and the nature and the life force of everything around us.
Absolutely.
And it's just like brought me to tears immediately. Full beauty in those moments where the rest of life didn't matter, right? It was like I just had such clarity.
Yeah, I honor your rewrite in that. And that's been a big thing that I've shown up with friends and clients and things like that, just as the rewrites are happening in the moment, because they are happening for people so quickly. And they're happening for me as well. Just, I catch myself in something, do a rewrite, and then boom, nature's talking to me. The animal medicine lately has been unreal. Like, a snake came to me today. Yeah. There was a praying mantis on the window above my kitchen sink. They like to hide. What's it doing out in the middle of the open? Talking to me. That's what it's doing. 100%. I was like, okay, I see you. And so that's the immediate connection that you're referring to. And I see it so much. And it is just this beautiful shifting within our consciousness that's happening right now. And I'm eternally grateful that it's showing up for so many people, and we get to be in this and shed a little bit of light on the parts that are a little bit more sticky as we're working this on, like, through these retrogrades and through this really deep understanding. The retrograde resistance is a great way to put that, because like, we're all feeling it. I know we are. Yeah. And as you mentioned with the nodes, like that North Node in Taurus, like, we want to ground into the things that are beautiful. So the fact that you just simplified it, got back to your roots, which is big, and just like, where's divinity? Where's the beauty? And beauty is in everything around us, especially, again, like I mentioned, Venus is the only one doing her thing right now. That's all about, what do you find beautiful? Yeah. And not having resistance to that, really leaning in to whatever that is, whether it's your favorite book, it's going for a walk, it's your relationship, it's your child, whatever it is, like, there's beauty everywhere. And if we just get simple in that, that's where divinity is just singing constantly all the time. Do you just want to listen? Because like,
right.
whew.
But it's like our cells are singing to it.
Oh yeah. They're communicating.
That's the thing. Our cells are talking to that. So it's like, it's not just seeing it, it's knowing it. It's right. Knowing you are it. That's the ancient wisdom, the infinite knowledge that is coming up in your cells. And so from that comes immediate magnetization. That's immediate flow, immediate release of the resistance, which we used to just live in the resistance. That became normal for us. We found some kind of comfort in it, which was very uncomfortable.
Right.
And I wanted to share that. As you said, when you have a pain or something and you pay attention to it, that's an intentional response. And that's soul care. And like our fuel to ascension and multidimensional living in the integration of this physicality in our infinite light bodies and our physical world is soul care.
The resonance is just one and the same. We're not separate entities, you know, and like we have been living in this idea mostly because that's just what we were told and what we were taught, right? That like we are separate from, and they are not. That connectivity really is, we are the divine, and bringing that into our destiny point, that North Node energy, grounding that in, really understanding that we are the connection. We came and had this earth lineage, like we just signed up for this earth life to bring divinity and heaven on earth, like heaven here, like this is it.
Yeah.
And that's really where the beauty gets to show up and be felt on a multidimensional level and create more of a presence, so that we're not feeling that disconnection anymore of I have to do this thing outside of me, or that God has to be something outside of me, that I have to like, you know, send all my things away and hopefully I get an answer or something like that. It's just, oh, okay, I can plug in and I can be this divine channel because it is me. It is my cells. It is my frequency. And that's where, again, all these synchronicities, as we once would call them, I would say, and now get to just show up and be affirmations in the field constantly when nature's giving back and all these downloads and messages come in and you're flooding in. Oh, okay, this is just God speaking through me. This is me speaking to me. This is higher self. This is divinity. This is source, however you want to call it. That's the embodiment, is returning back to ourselves, knowing that we are one, and that is already the innate connection. Like we don't have to reach for it. You just are.
You know, turn on to it.
Yeah, we're coming into our remembrance, essentially, right. That it just is.
Yeah, and as our cells take on more light, and this is the whole beautiful journey and process, is as you but you actually like intentionally respond and go through trauma transformation, that releases the density from your cells. It's like we're finishing the karmic loops, right? We are transforming the wounds and we're moving toward the light. We're not staying in those places that kept us in limitation and imbalance anymore.
Absolutely.
It's like our guiding light is like the light. It's like pulling us to it.
Yeah.
And so when you move through that, all of this actually reactivates in your cells. This is the earth school. The living library of knowledge turns on. I love what you just brought in, because I feel like that's going to take us to something else I wanted to talk about, which is the North Node in Taurus and the South Node in Scorpio, and how I feel like this is such a pivotal shift for us in humanity as we move towards the ripple effect. I like to talk about that because in this time with this final Saturn and Uranus square that's so personal for us, this is where I feel like we're strengthening that intentional response. When we feel the resistance, we create the shift because it's now becoming our belief system.
Yes.
Literally, the Pleiadians have shared with me, and I keep trying to tell everybody this in different ways, that the only way we're going to rebuild New Earth is not from inside the systems that we've built and that we've been banging our heads against.
100%.
The only way that we're going to do it is when you stop believing in those systems.
Yes.
Like literally, you can't just think like, oh, they suck. Like literally your belief in your cells stops believing in them and realizing they've been disconnecting you and disempowering you for so long. That's how we are going to quantumly build new systems from love frequency, benevolence, abundance. Yes?
Yes, I affirm. And that's that, like, to touch on then south nodes, since we didn't really talk about that yet, that's Scorpio energy. Scorpio is turning over every rock of everything that doesn't work anymore, you know, and like, look at it, say you don't believe in it anymore, like literally change your view of what's happening. And so it's just boop, 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 bringing it all up, bubbling it up, whatever, you know, it's going through the layers of mud underneath what you thought was in the water, right? And really bringing all of that up to where, okay, I don't stand for this. And it's really, that's where you've got to get sovereign in your power. Like, absolutely not. That's not my reality. Done. No, I don't believe in that story. You know, and that's the thing, is you can still look at things as like, oh, that's a story, because if that helps you deject and be like, nope, that's not it, I'm rewriting it. Like, I don't believe in that reality. I was just working with a client on that today. Like, it gets to be that easy. You know, you get to just say, no, absolutely not.
From your cells.
100%.
That's the embodiment
your
piece.
whole body has to believe it, though. It's not like, oh, I just said it. That's where affirmations sometimes kind of fall flat a little bit. Because you can consistently affirm something, but if you're not actually living it, if you're not feeling that, you can affirm it and still feel the other way, you know, consistently. And then you're not sending out a frequency that's a vibrational match. And it's not about like this manifesting and the secret and like that kind of stuff where you're pulling it into, you already are it. So what are you magnetizing to? Because everything is available. And that's where that hard belief of like, no, this is it, this is my reality, is getting to rework that. And we're getting to look at that by this line of Scorpio to Taurus. Where is the things that aren't serving me? Where are the secrets and the lies and the things that do not support what I want to seed in, what feels comfortable to me? And that's both of those energies. You know, this does not work, I don't like it. That feels secretive, that feels really like dark or XYZ, however you want to fill in that energy. And like, okay, this feels cozy. You know, Taurus wants to just be held and feel comfortable. So what in your life feels comfortable then? Write that story. Believe that with every cell in your body. And then it just is. Like, the miracles are everywhere.
Yeah. And I want to say move towards it. So this is a big piece, because sometimes when we talk about belief systems, it's like, how do we even excavate the belief system? What if I don't know what the belief system is? Right. And so it's like, when you're doubling down on something, that's creating more of it. Right. Even if you're like, I don't believe in that, so I'm going to argue with you. Right. That's creating more of that frequency and energy.
Yes.
So if you're actually moving toward what you do believe in, what makes you light up inside, what enlivens you, then you're creating more of that. That's the shift in belief system. So I want you all to check in with yourself right now. You know, are you fighting like constantly with somebody for something to prove something, right? That's just, you're holding yourself in a place of limitation, even though you're believing that, you know, your stance is true. But when you move toward what you do believe in, you magnetize more of those people. That becomes the ripple effect.
Absolutely. And where is that aligned action? And that's, we keep coming into that alignment, but still taking the steps. And that's, I see where a lot of people are hesitating, for sure. And I get the hesitation in the field, and yet it's, again, going to magnetize more hesitation, you know, lack of clarity and understanding. And so it's really, as you said, taking that space to really be like, okay, this is what I want and this feels good. And then all of that just starts showing up around you. And it ripples, because then other people are seeing you being a living example.
Yes.
And then that empowers them. You're inspiring people. You're empowering people. And all you have to do is be you. You know, it doesn't have to be across any platform or anything like that. You're just out in your energy, spreading it at the grocery store or the gas station. You know, it's really, this is the vibration I would like to be in. I want to choose to be in this energy this morning. And you can be feeling a gamut of emotions, though it's where, what do I want to show? What do I want to share? Like, what part of me really adds value to what's going on in the world and fills your cup first, you know? And that's really this, again, belief. And you don't know sometimes what some of them are until you come up against them. Mm-hmm. And so you try it on, essentially. You're like, okay, I'm going to feel this way today. And, I maybe that doesn't really actually feel authentic to me right now. It could be love and sunshine, and I'm going to try to say hi to everybody who walks by me on my hike today, and sometimes maybe that doesn't feel embodied, but I'm still going to smile at them, and it gets to be in everything. Like the divinity gets to show up in all the things. It doesn't have to be some, major instance in your day, but that's really what gets to create that ripple. Oh, I had a really amazing hike and that guy smiled at me today. Like that was really amazing. And then, I'm going to smile at more people today. And, it just kind of, whatever that small thing is, gets to ricochet and really spread more light across the planet right now. And if we all get to shift that vibration, even if it's something small every day, that adds up real fast.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm just going to throw a little Mars and Gemini in here because we're in an extra long transit of Mars and Gemini. So and, that's an action of a possibility of talking some shit. Yeah. Reacting, because Mars is all about action and Gemini is a thinker, right? Mm-hmm. It's like Gemini likes to really understand things and know what's going on and maybe have a little bit of overconfidence in what they're thinking sometimes. I can say this because I have a lot of Gemini on my chart.
Yep, I got you. I'm here too.
And so this is where I feel like we really are in this beautiful place of elder wisdom opening up in ourselves, where it's like, that's a lower vibration, right? Of me having to have power over you because you're saying something that I don't agree with. And so I really believe this is a pivotal shift that we're going to make as humanity. When this becomes more of the ripple, where we no longer put our energy towards like, I'm right, you're wrong. You need to understand my point. I need you to be a certain way to make me more comfortable. Right?
Yes.
When we finally shift that belief system, because it's a deep one. And I'm glad we finally I feel like I just got to the core of it here. And when we finally shift that and you allow that human condition to like flow without reaction. And this is the strengthening of that, what I was talking about, allowing the integrated journey to happen. Then you get to that source energy of like, oh no, wait, this is what I believe. And I can make more of this over here. I don't need this person to validate
queen.
what I believe, because when I believe it, I'm going to magnetize more of that. And I'm going to find the people that believe that as well. Right. And then we're going to create a bigger ripple effect.
You create the abundance and don't need other people to essentially change what they're doing.
Right. And that is, I feel like this is a huge shift for our culture. Huge. Especially for social media in general, TV, news, whatever. But also, I just wanted to say real quick, I'm going to bring in some random thing that I thought about today. And, there's elections coming up. I don't talk politics very often, but I feel like this is really pertinent right now.
Sure is.
There's elections coming up. And I've listened to somebody from both sides, the duality of our system, right? Remember, this is a very Saturnian system that we're talking about. And the elections are kind of near the Saturn Uranus square. Heyo.
Mars going retro. Yep.
But I heard on both sides, one side said they're trying to take away our democracy. The other side said they're trying to take away our freedom. And just the truth that I felt in that of like how it's all just a big... It's almost like I wanted to say it's a facade. Like there's not even an authenticity to it, that my cells were like, ew.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I'm revolted by all aspects. And that's 100% what's been showing up so much just personally for me. And what I think that this Pluto and Capricorn transit, which I know we've touched on a little, like has absolutely brought up to, okay, it needs to completely bulldoze any structure that was, because this is all broken. None of this works. It doesn't feel good. It was built on a broken system, and that's a whole other conversation we do not have time for. That is just not something that we have decided as sovereign beings we're here to do. And so many people are waking up every single day just in what you said. Like, I heard it. It doesn't feel good.
Right.
Period.
It doesn't feel real. No. It doesn't feel like truth. Like, we have that ability at this point, if you've been doing the work, if you've been being intentional, you know, and dropping in, doing some kind of alignment, your cells have the truth meter.
100%.
And you know it. And maybe you bypass it. Maybe you avoid it. Maybe you double down, you know, in your mind to change not listen to what your cells are saying.
Essentially like, yeah, convincing yourself otherwise.
That's where I feel like I love where we're going now from here, because we're moving into the second half of the zodiac, which is all about collective and community, right? Yeah,
totally.
Tell me.
Yeah, well, the fact that we're in retrograde season, which obviously we've talked about a lot. And so that's this inward journey. Yet the sun has just shifted into Libra. Now we're outward. So like on an identity aspect, it's where have we gone internally these past, you know, I'd say, you know, 2.5 years, that kind of thing. And really decided now this is how I want to interact with the people outside of me. And we're going into, as you said, like community aspect. How are we going to bring up our sovereign selves? And that goes into, you know, again, this, what we are touching on now is so much of this is personal. It's individual. So it's how does our individual interaction then get to impact, ripple effect into community, and not doing it from a place of, I need you to follow me, you know, like, and that's what a lot of the political side has been like, okay, well, this is me. I'm ahead of this team and I'm ahead of this team. We have our colors. You follow me and I follow you, you know, like, and
it's like one or the other.
Exactly.
Pick one.
We're not playing football here. Like, no, it's not shirts and skins. Like, that's not how this works. And so much of humanity is now seeing that and seeing that it's a broken system in that way, because there's not just two teams. It's just not how it works. And we then have our individual expression, our fingerprint, our soul blueprint, you know, our divine code that gets to express through this understanding. And that's where there just gets to be some kind of new system. And I think, as you touched on with Mars and Gemini, like, this energy and why this transit again is a gift from the cosmos to really bring in, how do we get to change this? How do we get to create from this new space and put some of that intellectual like airspace into our action and not getting lost in that, you know? And that's where there's obviously always free will. So how can we look at this Gemini transit as a gift, as a blessing, to where we can look at things? I like to look at Gemini as being able to see perspective from all angles. You know, like there's the two twins. I'm going to see it from the front, the back, the side, like whatever. You're always being able to have double eyes on it, like the eyes in the back of your head. Right. And so taking action from that space, if we're leading from an embodied place of, okay, I can see these different paths. I can see what's truth. I can see and feel, right, a lot, because all the senses are together in my opinion at this moment, but I can understand where this does not feel authentic in my body, and neither does that. So I'm going to go this way. And I'm now hoping and setting the intention for humanity that more and more people make decisions from that space, because that aligned action within Mars is going to be working from, okay, I've seen the perspective of all these things, rather than falling into the gossip, into the cattiness, into the, I need to be better than you. I need to show up more. Like, yes, that's the other side of Gemini, though. Again, we all have options in this. And if we're, you know, deciding we're on this ascension journey and we're full of all this light, like, can we take it as the high road of perspective of, I see where you are and I don't want to cause more pain into your field. So I'm going to make my choices and do this over here and live in my, you know, like, sovereignty without having to press out into, you need to follow me. There is a big shift in there for humanity that I think a lot of people have been unconsciously just doing. And of course, here we are, gifted a retrograde season to look at it. It's not unconscious anymore. It's bringing it to the conscious. Make a decision, actually see what you're doing and shift from there.
Right. And allowing the frequency to speak for itself.
Yes.
We were just talking about this earlier. Like, we are no longer working in words. We're not functioning from words. We're functioning from light, from frequency, and from magnetization.
Yes.
So like, I feel like that's where the inspired action comes from, right? The aligned action, because I feel like Gemini is also inspiration, right? Air comes in and it brings inspiration. So when we can allow ourselves, like, you know, witness and honor parts of that human condition that might still be in our cells, it might still be coming up, and letting that flow through instead of getting stuck in it, and knowing what's on the other side of that, with the inspiration, with the transcendence or the honoring of the contrast, of the duality,
Yes.
and like having that higher perspective and moving, then using that Mars action to move forward with that.
Yeah, I love that.
So as we go into the second half of the zodiac wheel, don't you feel like because we have such a solidification in and strengthening in our personal intentional responses, and we know what's available in those spaces, don't you feel like we are going to be moving into the collective in that new inspired like way together?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a beautiful rise of, just humanity, way showers, just people on the embodied path that are expressing ourselves, whether you're, a coach or not, it's something like that. It's just a matter of living in that expression and coming from that space as we go about our daily lives and how we interact and creating communities. And I know more and more people are being drawn even to create community, to get the land, to build the space, to have people come, like working together. And that's even going into, again, our North Node and Taurus to really ground into that energy, creating action from there and really rippling into this new sense of how we interact. And like so much of that, I feel like is highlighted in what's about to shift in October. Like so many things are happening. We're having the Mars return also, like for the US, which Mars returns happen. We've had them before, but the fact that we had Pluto return and Mars return, like all these things are coming together to shift. And like the shifts aren't done. We all know that. We all know that the state of the world and the story that's being put on us is going to continue to be told for a while. And that is okay because we're living in our sovereignty and we have that truth meter, as you said. Our cells know. So if we just get to be like, okay, this is what it is. This is what feels good. This is the truth. Everything else that's coming on around us isn't going to matter. So we're still grounding in and creating these communities. We're still living from this place of transcendence because we have this new vision, this new sight, this new inspiration.
Well, we have this new source of connection. Mm-hmm. That's why I love this nodal access so much because, the South Node, what we're leaving is in Scorpio, it's like the secrets, the underbelly, the deception, right? And we're moving toward that simplicity, that beauty, the life force energy connection that we have, and like being even in community and like love. Right? Taurus is so a lot about love. And like even the ways that we bring money in, right?
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
Our financial abundance is changing as well. And I mean, I just had a beautiful conversation with our live audience member, Thomas, about it and how he's made a major shift in the way that abundance is coming into his life. And it's holistic.
Yes.
It's not just like, okay, I clock in, I clock out. This is the money that I get. Like he really created this space through a transformative period, which isn't always comfortable, but really like, I want to say like held steady, like, stuck with it.
Right.
And
that's
like,
that Taurus energy for sure. Yeah.
That bull.
Yep.
And kept the trust, kept the faith, right? Knowing that we are evolving always and we're infinite. And now he's in this beautiful space of working from sovereignty and making more money than he ever would have made from the things that came as a no before. And I hope he's okay with me sharing that story.
He affirms. And I think that's a really beautiful gift, again, from this time in our lives, is we get to redefine what wealth even means. How does it feel? What does it mean to be wealthy to you? And yes, obviously that comes from financial abundance, security, just existence in your life, having money to pay for things, because we have some constructs that obviously still take that, and that's okay. But it's rewriting the stories around it and really being in, how do I feel wealthy? Because it doesn't have to be this simple, like, okay, I go to work, I clock in, I work 12-hour days, blah, 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 or whatever it is, that's where I feel like, oh, okay, now I'm deserving of this wealth. We're we had been equating our worthiness to how much wealth we were bringing in. And now it's, oh no, I'm so worthy that obviously the wealth has to show up. Obviously I'm matched on it. That's the magnetism that we're talking about. And so really being in that aligned space of, okay, this is where I get to redefine. And again, hold true to when all of that crap is coming up, let Scorpio bring it up. Let it, like, because Scorpio also gets to be, you know, like, there's some sexiness there. There's some inquisitive, like, it wants to, like, look and introspect and feel and be, you know, in this watery emotional side. And so, yes, that is intense. Let it come up. Hold strong in that I'm going to make this work. That's what gets to rewrite all the things, whether it's money or love or your home situation, XYZ, you know, but that is a very simple process to a not so simple feeling, right? Of just being present in what's coming up, seeing it, feeling it, letting the wave come through you, being in that light experience. Like, I feel like this wraps together all of the things that we've just been talking about, because that's really being in that embodiment for, okay, I am in this space. I am this wealthy, sovereign individual. And this is the story I am now feeling, believing, and living from. I am the story that I am creating. You know, that's the belief that gets to come out and live through you.
Yes. Let's marinate in that. How would it feel if your number one priority was feeling good, was being in alignment? And how would it feel when money came in from that? Because we've been living in like, okay, we make all this money and then we'll feel good when we're on vacation. Right? Like we grind, we hustle, and like we stress ourselves out and sacrifice ourselves to have that vacation, or like get to 65 and then have some years with that. Right. But what happens when we re-experience that narrative?
Absolutely.
And we get to be in like this bliss and joy and alignment, and then work comes from that. A more inspired life comes from that, and money rolls in from that as well. Like, granted, when I say this, we also have to look at the belief of immediate gratification, because that is not how we were meant to be here on this journey, is immediate gratification. And it's actually produced quite a bit of limitation for people.
Yes, it has.
Right. Yeah. And so when we can actually use this, let's just say this transit one more time, Saturn and Uranus squaring, Saturn squaring Uranus, if we use that liberation of time and structure and the innovation of how we can actually be in it, like, just feel into that in your cells. How beautiful is that, to feel like joy and alignment in how you bring money in for the rest of your time in this iteration, in this body. Like, you don't have to wait for retirement. Right.
Yes, absolutely. And that's, again, just a concept, a story we've been told, and we were like, okay, this is just how it works. And I know there are so many that are already rewriting this story, and 2020 came in and really gave us the gift of that, right? Of like, okay, you get to work for yourself. You don't have to do this in this way anymore. And it's restructuring how we work, how we make money, how we feel about that process. And so I do really feel like this, again, as you brought up with this transit and how pivotal it is in our individual expression, is really believing that to its fullest. I get to let go of that grind mentality, or pushing yourself where you don't feel aligned. Like, as we even touched on, you know, when you get into your purpose path, it all just starts to flow in. You know, whatever you're doing gets to come through you when you're aligned in that, and you're feeling that clarity in, I get to offer this. Like, there is gratification in that. And that's where the money gets to come in. And whether it's, you know, from your work or from your partner, or you just found $20 on the ground, you know, like, money gets to flow through to you because you just are the vibrational match for it, because you're existing in your happiness. And all it is currency. And if we're all energy, then it's the same as you. You're one and the same. And this gets to break that idea that it's also disconnected. And as the economy is shifting so much, it's about attaching to that freedom rather than the fear.
Yeah. And I mean, money is a construct that we absolutely have to live in. And the thing that I want to bring this back around with again is, not everybody has the space and privilege to like move into that journey right now, right?
Sure.
But that's where you start small. You know what I mean? Like, get out of the immediate gratification, get out of the like, well, I don't have any kind of environment that I can do that in. I have, a family that I have to feed, and I have all these bills I have to pay and things like that,
I can't
right?
just quit my job and work from home or whatever.
It's
whatever
unrealistic
yeah.
because we live in this culture that has created the construct of money and the money exchange. And I don't want to say but, I would say and alignment is free.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where we have to get out of the like, no, if I do A, I get B, and then I get C. It's like, wait, like while you're bringing that money in, while you're still doing the thing that you know to do, that you're in the vibration of doing right now for bringing the money in, you start moving into spaces of alignment for free.
Yes.
You create that intentional
both
practice.
And, baby, both and.
Right?
Yeah.
And then that starts to shift. But not only that, I also want to say for those people that are really like moving into those deep, deep spaces of their soul's purpose and mission, the more that they emanate that light out, the more it becomes a reference. We've never had this reference before, right? The only reference we had was hustle, grind, push more, competition, comparison. We never had that. And so that was the belief system that we took on. But now as we create this frequency in this collective of living an aligned life and living in these spaces of intentional responses, children, kids, like they get to pick from that reference. Yes. I didn't have a witchy reference when I was growing up. I was like, that's why I tried to exit this world, right? Because it was so uncomfortable. And that's the age of Pisces. And now as we're moving into such sovereignty and connection and like empowerment in that light and moving towards light, we don't have to have power over, we have power within. Yes. Right? And so as we're moving there, I just want to really highlight that frequency will become more of the reference for people to tap into. Then they're going to make these shifts in like soulful ways, which will ripple into their physicality. So that's like, you know what I mean? I'm sharing the journey here instead of being like, well, that's bullshit because I have to work this job every day and like I can't just go quit my job. That's the old mentality.
Absolutely.
That's what we're liberating ourselves from.
Absolutely. And that's that idea, like you said, to just be like, oh, I instantly need to change something to fix this. Like it doesn't have to be that abrupt either. And that's, again, part of the reworking and the rewriting that we're going through within all of these transits in this time. And so that's a really beautiful point to just offer in. You don't have to shift everything all at once. You get to be in your free alignment, in your embodiment journey, and still go to the job that you have. You can understand like, hey, this isn't for me forever. I've decided that. Like this is that gets to be decision number one. You don't have to quit your job tomorrow, but you can decide, I don't want to be here anymore. Let's work on what that looks like after the fact. And that's again, this Mars and Gemini. What's the perspective of the other side rather than getting stuck? Where can I take aligned action right now? And maybe that just means you on your way to that job that you eventually will leave and you have gratitude that you're in because you can pay your bills right now, but you're listening to that uplifting podcast or the book or the something. Like you can get inspiration from all these little places. That's part of embodiment. That's like listening to this right now as you're doing the dishes is, like that kind of thing gets to be that little micro rewrite. And all those add up. All those create these new avenues for other people who are living this journey to plug into. It makes it available for them. And I love that you brought that up because we didn't have examples of this before. And social media is here and it's a gift in some ways. And it tells a bunch of, lies, Instagram versus reality, right? Like that's a thing because people tell a lot of stories on there and you're not sure of exactly how it looks. So it's essentially just bringing this authenticity up to the world in whatever way is channeling through you, whether it's a podcast or writing a book or XYZ, whatever that is, and living from that holistic space. Because then, as you said, children, other people going through this at different levels of the awakening journey can plug in and be like, oh my gosh, wow, this really is a mirror to what I'm going through right now.
Right. And they ascend so much quicker. It's quicker. Like quantum leaps.
Oh, 100%.
I just want to accentuate this point and I want to embody it right now. And this is like what's important is not just hearing these concepts. We can study astrology. If we don't embody it, then we're not making the deep internal shifts and we're not moving through the actual ascension phase and then the integration phase in the physical world. So I just want you to feel into this right now. So imagine if you're driving, you know what it's like to drive, right?
Absolutely.
You know what it's like to notice everybody else that's driving around you. Imagine you're driving home from somewhere. Every single person that you see in another car smiles and waves at you.
Ooh.
How good does that feel?
That would feel great. Absolutely.
It would change your energy, right?
Oh, 100%.
Okay.
You get home, you're like lit up.
Yeah. So now you just embodied the concept that I'm sharing here. That when more of us live in this alignment, the frequency goes out into the planet and people pick up on it and they get to go faster, higher, quicker, like more quantum instead of working through the resistance. So the work that we're doing is like the ripple out that will change the systems faster because people will make those shifts and those leaps immediately, instantaneously.
Absolutely.
Right? Without time.
Yeah. Without time. We let it go. And that's a beautiful deliverance gift opportunity that's present here. That is, it just is. And that's the thing. I think a lot of people are in like, oh, well, this needs to change in order for this. But it's already happening. And that's where integrating and understanding, what we're talking about within the astrology right now is really just knowing that it's already happening with us. Like it's already happening amongst us. And it's just by being in that expression and, again, just setting the smile, like you said, throughout the day. And it gets to be that simple. It gets to feel that good. And living from that heart space of just, I want to share more of this positivity. And something as simple as waving at somebody while you're driving,
Right.
And living in that is what's really going to anchor in so much of this without having to think about it, without having to do something, again, something big within our lives. It gets to just be in those more mundane, I'm air quoting, feelings, which the astrology right now does kind of bring us back to the mundane in a way so that we can put our love and our light in it and really get away from the kind of concept that we've put around, say that word, but it gets to be the everyday. It gets to just connect and be effortless in that effect that we have amongst everybody that we come in contact with.
Well, and I love that you said effortless because we have been efforting for so long.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like the effortlessness comes from your choice in vulnerability, your choice in emotionality, your choice to share this transformation with yourself. And that's where you find that heart space, right? Because if we're in resistance of feeling, then we're creating the walls and the tension and there's no flow and ease. Absolutely. And so it's like moving through that full transformation and we're learning how to do it really well. Yeah. Because we never learned how to do it well before. We learned how to do it really shitty.
Really bad. Yeah. So now we're like unlearning to relearn. Yeah. But yeah, we really are being given so many opportunities to like, here we go, a little deeper, a little deeper, a little deeper.
I mean, so many opportunities because there's people like me and you out there. There's so many people out there that are like fully committed to this transformation and this ascension, this integrated ascension, this embodied ascension and what's available. Like we were just talking about this tonight. I'm going to kind of finish with this, but we were talking about how amazing and fun it is for your psychic powers to just keep strengthening.
Ooh, yes.
Right? It's such a blast. It's like you're on this amusement ride and it's the possibilities in the unknown. And when you're open for that, more comes.
Absolutely.
But if you don't believe that there's something that's possible beyond your concept of what you see and feel and touch in your physical world, then you're stopping it from happening.
Absolutely.
That's the frequency you're creating.
Yeah. And I see it, what just came through to me now is like almost like you're creating this art piece or creating like painting a picture, right? And so there's all these little bits of these psychic wisdoms that get to come through, these new gifts that are coming online by just being open to them. It's essentially like showing up and then like, oh, a new color shows up and then another color shows up and you're putting together all these pieces. And at first you might not see it as like, oh, this is a psychic gift, right? Oh, this is an intuitive hit. Because if you're going through if you're in the beginning of this transition and awakening journey, you might not fully believe in these gifts that you have yet. That's okay. But it's like finding those little threads that come through. And then eventually you kind of put a couple pieces together and you're like, oh, okay, that's starting to make a picture. And then they get stronger and they get stronger. And we do get to really ride through this evolution and be like, wow, that's amazing. Like I just saw through all of these timelines. Like that reality just played out in the last 30 seconds in my mind. So that was cool. Like, thank you for that. Also, like one of mine is like deep intuitive knowing of what other people are feeling or thinking. And so like, I have so many people in my life that are always like, get out of my head, all the time. Yes. Our audience agrees.
That's interesting because I used to think that was a curse, right? Because I would know when people didn't like me.
Yeah.
Like I would know when they felt threatened by me. And I mean, I'm a powerful Aries woman. So I would walk into a room and it was almost like it would shut me down.
Yes, me too.
Because it's like it would get so heavy. Right. But now there's just such a transformation in that as we move into more light. It's like this huge superpower where before it felt like almost a weakening, right? Because that was where we didn't feel normal, right? We didn't feel like we were meant to be here. The star seeds, the people that came in with this knowingness, with this intuition, with these, I don't want to say gifts, but everybody has gifts because everybody has it. It's just, what do we practice?
Exactly.
What do we develop in our lives? And so this is like where when I do intuitive readings, I'm not telling anyone anything they don't already know.
100%.
I'm actually teaching them what their psychic strength is and their intuitive messages rather than or distinct from the mind chatter and the programming. And then, so this is almost like psychic school when you go and get intuitive readings because it affirms what your psychic messages were. And then you're like, because we're looking for what we saw on TV, some sensationalism, like, oh, it's going to be like some other voice and like, it's going to hit me from nowhere. And it's like, no, this comes in your language. It comes in your voice. It comes in your expression. And once you start discerning that, honestly, I'm just going to say it gets easier and easier. And it might not feel like that in the beginning because we have this competition culture where we're like, no, we need to know how to do it immediately.
Right. Well, I can't see auras. This person can, like or whatever it is.
It will come.
Yes.
But it takes intentional practice.
It does.
We become whatever we practice.
And still believing and trusting in yourself.
Yes.
Big piece of that is you have to trust yourself in what you're hearing, what you're seeing, what you're feeling, and giving a voice to that. That's been a huge mantra. It's just like giving my wisdom a voice, giving my life a voice, giving my womb a voice, and like however your messages come through you can be uniquely yours, but give it a voice. Let it be heard, even if that starts with only you, because that's what's going to continue that progression to get stronger. It's just like developing any other muscle, but the belief systems are the same way. The psychic powers are the same way, like really just honoring them, nurturing it, vocalizing it. Maybe if you're feeling something, say it to that person that you're feeling it from. Maybe that's going to stir up a conversation. And then boom, you have that affirmation. And eventually you won't need all those affirmations anymore, though they are going to be available whether you're looking for them or not, because people around you are going to be like, whoa, okay, thank you for helping me with that. Or I really needed to hear that. Or, they show up in obviously so many various ways, but it's just a practice you get to be in. Yeah.
And the affirmations just become plentiful.
Excellent.
That's
Absolutely.
The thing. That's what I'm saying. Like I want to give you that confirmation that when you choose this path, right? When you choose to like intentionally go there and get into alignment and listen to the messages and give them voices, it's going to get easier. I promise. Yeah. Just like riding a bike, just like anything that we have learned to do, even believing in the possibilities everywhere, like getting excitement about the unknown. That's a muscle as well. And when you get into that, possibilities come from everywhere. But if you don't believe in it, you're only looking in one trajectory. And that's very limited.
And that gets to start with a simple rewrite is just like, I love surprises. I love when the universe just, delivers these gifts and shows up for me in all these unexpected ways. You know, it gets to start with something as simple as that, and then reaffirming that for yourself. And then the universe is like, oh yeah, let me reaffirm that with you, you know?
I love that you keep bringing it back to the simplicity, because again, I think that's the power of this nodal axis. And we're about to go into eclipse season. Any final thoughts on eclipse season as we move very, very quickly into it?
Right. So I do think, again, this first eclipse is going to be emotionally in the Scorpio energy, is really, again, going to bring up anything that's left in our identity that needs to be looked at, that might have been secrets we were keeping from ourselves, that you were unconsciously even aware of, and shedding a light on that. And that's why I think the simplicity factor means so much to me right now, because that can be energy to get really, that people can get caught up in. And with all of the outside factors, if you let that into your space, then it might be overwhelming. And I really want to offer people an invitation into honoring their own expression and trusting their process, trusting themselves again, so that they can really feel into what's developing and what wants to be cleared. Because everything, as we get into all this light, the density is like, I have to go. I need to be ejected from the body. Mm-hmm. And sometimes some things are louder than other things. And eclipse season is going to make all the things that you needed loud, just cranking it up, the volume on high. And that is going to be uncomfortable on some level. Now, how quickly you choose to transmute through it and feel it and accept it and take accountability and just ground into, I have another side of this. This is only temporary. That is going to offer so much transformation. That's the quantum leap. That's letting go of time or what you think you need to move through or how you think you need to feel, and really just be in your existence. Release all of this like human density of what we thought needed to happen, and be in that embodied light being that we are having this human experience, which means we get to feel all the things and transcend multidimensionally and just anchor into this present existence and radiate from our space of love. And like, eclipse season will definitely shake you to your core in some ways, but let that be the gift. Let that be everything else that you needed, that one last piece that you're like, you know, I'm almost there. I've been doing all this work and I am so close. Like, I have the relationship in my dreams. I have the house in my dreams, but like, I'm just not, you know, like, I'm not making the financial, you know, abundance that I want to make or something like that. There's a limitation that's more spiritual and less physical in there to still be worked through. That one last piece. And I think eclipse season is here to show that to people. And like, maybe you've got 3 pieces, maybe you only have 1, whatever that is, but absolutely like let it come up, because if you don't, it's probably going to be really uncomfortable. Like, let's just say, like we just talked about Scorpio for quite a while, like just be with it and honor your process. Give yourself grace for where you've fallen down and just get back up. We get to go and keep moving and shine. Like, we are having a human experience. You get to also find all of the wisdom that comes from the failures. And they might not be in this present moment, but eclipse season has that power of like bringing up the old stuff, bringing up things from your childhood. That's okay. Like, if that's what needs to be released, let it go. And let the eclipse, like eclipse energy, I feel like it really scoops everything up like in this big black hole, and it like whoop, like creates this portal and like takes it. So we're digging it all up. Okay, here you go. Thank you. Bye.
I like that.
Whoop, whoop. See you later.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. I feel like this eclipse season is going to be actually a little bit lighter.
Yeah. Okay.
Because of what we've just went through in the retrograde period. I feel like we've really honed into that, like breaking through and breaking free from the retrograde resistance just to go into this eclipse season where you have the formula. Like, you have the formula that lets you play out that human condition because it's getting lighter in your cells, and it takes you to that source energy and that trust. And you're like, oh yeah, energy always moves. Mm-hmm. Weather always shifts. Emotions always move through. And it's like you find that trust now that, like, last eclipse season, you know, we were still in chaos and like we're still getting that intentional response of that trust. And so I feel like it might be a little bit lighter. Maybe that's just for me personally. Who knows? Maybe it's for the collective. But I love that you just shared that, like, really fully honoring and witnessing and let yourself be with what is truly coming up, because I feel like this nodal access is the last of like our personal, like very, very deep wounds and karmas coming up.
Yeah.
And then that's where we are really going to go into the rebirthing of the collective. That's like happened on a small level. I mean, it might feel pretty chaotic, but I feel like the personal level has been so much more accentuated in the past 2.5 years for us to be in our full balance, full sovereignty, us to know the formula. Like I say formula, that's a very Saturnian thing to say, but know that journey into source energy where the magnetization happens, right? The frequency happens. So that was amazing, Kelsey.
Yes.
Oh my
so
God. We're getting a round of applause. I hope it's a standing ovation. I can't see it from here, but
it totally is.
Beautiful, beautiful. Please tell everybody where they can get a hold of you, how they can work with you.
Yes, of course. Thank you for asking. Again, I'm Kelsey Isis, and you can find me on social media at the Golden Rose Codes. I also have a website, thegoldenrosecodes.com. And I am open to everything of this ascension embodiment journey. Please reach out, create community. I really just want to share in this beautiful awakening and all of the tools that our lives really bring to us, whether it comes from the stars or from the earth and from the trees and from our movements and from our bodies. So beautiful. Thank you so much for having me on this beautiful podcast. I'm so grateful. Every time we get together, it's electrifying. So
thank you for having me in your home.
You're welcome. Thanks for being here, nesting with me.
And Kelsey and I have started doing IG lives. Okay, well, we've done one.
Yes. That started.
Yeah, but it was very well received.
Yes.
And
we had a blast.
We did have a blast. Oh my goddess, did we have a blast. So just stay tuned on either of our pages, because I feel like we're going to have some more in the future.
Yes. I would love that. I would be honored. And I think we just have some really divine things that like to come through, and giving it in this really grounded way feels nurturing to my soul. And I hope that everyone listening also feels that.
Absolutely. Yes. I hope that you felt divinely supported and guided through this time together. And I just want to show so much appreciation for this moment.
Yes. This present moment, this present connection, this relationship, this friendship, everything that we have right now. I'm divinely grateful. Yeah.
This love fest in your house.
Thank you.
It's been juicy.
Yes. Sensual embodiment.
Thomas, come say goodbye on the mic.
This is your live studio audience, and thank you for joining us.
Ooh, that was sexy in a really nice way.
I liked it.
Maybe I'll keep it. Yeah. Maybe I'll keep it on every episode. Ooh. Okay, y'all. Until next time, don't forget to keep looking up. And with that, let's normalize the struggles, celebrate the quirks, and lean into the light. From myself and Beezus the Brave, happy Wild Heart Revolution, friends. Testing.
Hello, testing.
Hello. Oh my gosh. Okay, here we go. How's it going so far, Thomas? Oh my gosh.
You want me to crack that door?
Yeah.
For having no heat on in the house, it's damn warm in here.
It's right? I just got super hot.
In the house right now, so.
Yeah.
It's true. You guys
Heating
brought the
it
fire.